All right. Welcome to another episode of Connect and Politic. We're here with a special guest. Please introduce yourself by telling us your name, where you're currently located, and your favorite snack.
My name is Sarah McDevitt. I'm currently located in Oakland, and my favorite snack is M&Ms.
That's interesting. Any particular?
The plain ones.
Yeah.
None of this peanut nonsense. They have so many M&M flavors now. Like whoever is like product innovation at M&M, like there's like 20 flavors now. But
Yeah.
I'm all about the plain M&Ms or almond M&Ms. Those will work too.
Nice. Do you remember your favorite food as a child?
Ooh, pasta with red sauce. I guess as an adult, I might call it marinara sauce, but red sauce and cheese.
This was made. This is homemade or from somewhere?
Homemade. We still, like my family does, for birthday dinners, the birthday person gets to choose their home cooked dinner. And I still choose like my mom just making pasta as my birthday dinner.
So is this also your favorite meal as an adult?
It's kind of like my most like homey nostalgic meal, you know. So like if I'm at home with my parents, celebrating my birthday, it like feels good. It's like comfort food, but I don't know if I would say it's my favorite meal now.
So what's your favorite meal now?
Ooh, I mean, I do like a lot of pastas actually. I don't know what my favorite meal is. I eat everything. I'm like the least picky eater ever. So I don't know. I have so many favorites. I don't know. I eat a lot of different things.
Well, do you remember the last time you had your favorite meal?
The pasta meal?
No, any meal that you had that you were like, oh wow, this is great.
Well, so last night, I ordered takeout from this Ethiopian restaurant that I hadn't been to, and it is so good. And I was talking to, like, when I cook, I'm like a fairly basic cook, and I'm just like, the Ethiopian food that I ordered, like the amount of different flavors and spices, I'm like, wow, I don't even ever get close to this level of complexity in my own cooking, and I need to take it up a notch. But yeah, it was really good.
Nice. What's your favorite, your fondest, not your favorite, your fondest memory from childhood?
I think one very fond one that comes to mind, I guess it's not like a single moment, but when I was like 11, I started going to this basketball gym in Seattle, and I'd grown up playing basketball and soccer and like Little League baseball and whatever else, but I think I was like 11 or 12 and walked into this gym in Seattle and just like immediately felt at home. And so the fondest memories I think are just like, it's like a montage of just moments in that gym. Like it was like 2 blocks from my high school that I went to, and I would just go after school every single day. And it was, you know, I played AAU out of it. Like they had an organized team, but it was also just a community around a gym that was always open. Like you could stay and shoot until 2 a.m, and the guy that ran the gym would stay there until you were, you know, you worked through whatever you needed to work through. And it was just like the most incredible community I've ever been a part of. Like you could just walk in and, you know, the same people are there every day, and every new person who comes in is just like welcomed with open arms. And there was both like tough love and discipline, but also just like so much fun. And all my strongest relationships still, I would say, are from that gym. So I guess my fondest memory is just like walking into that gym. Like, you know, when you think of something like that, you can still like smell it, you know. And I can smell that gym and that entryway. Yeah.
Nice. Do you miss anything about being a child?
I miss that gym for sure. Yeah, I mean, honestly, though, actually, like, I think, so I moved to the Bay Area about 6 years ago now from Seattle. And I don't think I've ever been a part of a community as strong as that. And I feel like that's something I got from team sports growing up, just over and over again, like just this sense of being on a team and being part of this really strong community. And I've struggled to find that in the Bay Area as much, or just like in adulthood, I guess.
Yeah.
Because, everyone's so wrapped up in what they're doing and the grind that they're on. And it's harder to find that like built-in community.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's building those ties as adults is pretty difficult. I mean, it's well studied, and the funny thing about that is that everyone knows it, and I think everyone would like it to be different.
Yeah.
So even you saying what you just said, you would like it to be different, but yet we're all perpetrators of why is not
Totally.
So it's actually an interesting paradox that we have. But
yeah, it's like none of us know how to change it, but we all want to change it. Yeah, and I tried, like, even through basketball, just playing on a team in San Francisco, and it just didn't quite have the right vibe. But yeah, everyone, I think it's been highlighted now in quarantine where everyone's like, dang, like I really should have worked on building a stronger local community before this happened, because now I'm stuck.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think it's a combination of things. I think, so a few things. One, I think, when you're younger, you have so much downtime that you're allowed to bond just by being around each other, right? And so you, by being around each other so much, you have so many shared experiences that you can just, pick from. Whereas as you get older, time is so constrained, or at least we make it constrained, like we're just running here and there. And so that really makes it tough. But I also think the other piece about it for adults that makes it difficult is that we think we have access to these long distance relationships, you're from Seattle, you lived in New York, and so the people in all those places you're probably strongly connected to, as opposed to wherever you are, like you're like, oh good, I got a connection to this so place. And then of course with social media, it just exacerbates it and makes you feel more connected than you really are. And so
yeah. And I mean, people are on the move so much, like you might develop, it's just more frequent that you develop those close relationships where you are, but then, a job takes someone across the country, or, whatever it is in your 20s and 30s, that like everyone's so mobile and, moving up and doing different things. And so your community is just like shifting all the time.
And how do you think your childhood in Seattle helped groom you into the person you are today?
I loved growing up in Seattle. I think, so my first, going back to that same gym. So I was in a school before that. I'm trying to remember the timeline here. That was like, it was a private school. It was just like much wealthier than I'd ever been around, really, and it was very white. And I went there for 2 years, and the first year I was all right. The second year kind of like correlated with when I had found this gym that I mentioned. And I you know, the moment I walked into that gym, I just felt at home with like the values and everything that was just oozed out of that gym and the way that that community operated. And I felt like the values that I was around at this school, and then like I'd go after from, you know, middle school, I'd then go to this gym and feel at home, and like the communities were just couldn't be more different. And the gym was like super diverse. Everyone running it was Black, and like, you know, I'm not saying that like every rich white person's terrible values and, you know, whatever, but like it just felt like I'm in two different worlds right now, and I hate the one that I'm in at school, and I love the one that I'm in at this gym. And I started like just dreading going to school. Like people were just mean, and there was just a lot of clickiness, and, you know, there started to be like a lot of drinking and weed and all this stuff that I just wasn't into. I just wanted to play basketball. And so I eventually transferred, but my social community after that started to be really diverse in a lot of ways, like just different parts of the city people were from, you know, like you go to a different high school, and you know, suddenly you get out of the neighborhood you grew up in, and you get to you know, spend really meaningful time with people from totally different neighborhoods of the city, different upbringings. And so my high school experience, in my high school and also at this gym I go to every day, was just like vastly different than kind of the first 10 years of my life. And I just felt super, super at home. And then, you know, spending every single day in this gym, like the people who ran the gym were like, you know, beyond my family, like they were the next parental figures for me. And so just contributed to my value system and like raising me alongside, you know, my family. And so I think that Seattle, you know, has a lot of like, I mean, speaking to current events, like a lot of its own hidden, you know, sort of like underlying racism and bias that's undercurrents of, you know, systems all across the country. And sometimes Seattle is like, we're so liberal, like we're so progressive. And, you know, right now I think people are seeing like we gotta like dig into that further, because we've maybe been like that on the surface, and like to think of ourselves that way, but we need to dig into like what's really underneath all that. But I just felt like I was able to, I was like fortunate enough to grow up in a community that was super diverse and different than what I would have been in if I had stayed just in the neighborhood that I initially grew up in. And so I just feel like, you know, there are pockets of Seattle where there's such community around truly diverse bodies of people. And so I'm like hopeful that right now, kind of looking at what's going on in my hometown right now, that people are like really digging into that. But I think that community and being able to be a part of that was like just the most formative thing for me becoming who I am.
Yeah. And what would you say are, did you grew up with both of your parents?
Yeah, my family is a small, tight little family. I have an older brother and a cousin who's like a sister. And my parents still live in Seattle. They're together. My brother lives in Seattle. And my cousin lives here, so I spend a lot of time with her.
Okay. So what would you say were the most important lessons that you learned from both your mom and your dad, but as well as your, I don't know, what would you say, your basketball coach, or the gym owners? Yeah.
Yeah. I think my family, I feel like a big thing in my family is like just coming back to the simple things. Like we ate dinner together, for the most part, except when sports practice was during dinner. But you know, Sunday dinners would be together, or You know, my dad, he's an independent financial planner, and so he kind of like works for himself, and just kind of like steadiness, like goes to work every day, does the work he needs to do, comes home, has a family dinner, doesn't have another need in the world, you know, like doesn't need anything fancy. If he has like chicken and rice on the table and his family around him, he's happy. And so I think there's just like a simplicity in a good way to just like not needing more than like some solid basics that you have. And then from the gym, I mean, man, so many things. It basketball wise toughened me up. A lot of tough love, like how to freaking work hard. But I think, you know, that community was like, it was like unconditional. Like if you showed up and just showed other people love, like unconditional love returned. And, you know, the guys that ran the gym would like correct you when you were out of line, like that, you know, and like maybe harshly, but it was like true for everyone, like even for everyone. And it was done with like, you know, you better get in line, but we love you, you're welcome the next day, no matter what you do. And just like treat people right, or you'll get corrected.
The first thing, you know, thus far this gym has been featured a lot in your answers. Is the gym still functioning and still open?
It is not, no.
Okay.
Which actually happened my senior year of high school. It kind of, as we knew it, kind of shut down.
Yeah. Okay. What are your favorite things to do for self-care?
I meditate. For sure. I go on walks with my dog. That's actually been one thing that has, I would say, improved during quarantine. Like just getting out on walks more frequently during the day, and recognizing like when a walk would be good for me mentally or physically or whatever. Sleep. Like everyone talks about, you know, starting a startup, you like never sleep. I mean, it's a long journey. Like if you really didn't prioritize sleep, I don't know how you make it through a startup journey, but I definitely prioritize my sleep.
Nice. So you mentioned meditation. Have you always been you've always practiced meditation? And if not, what started it?
Yeah. I was not aware of meditation until about 6 or 7 years ago. Wow. And I wish I was. Like, I mean, I was aware of yoga and kind of some related, you know, practices, but yeah, so I was working at Microsoft in the beginning of my career, and at some point decided to go to grad school. And so I was like getting ready to quit my job. I was excited about grad school, but kind of nervous. It was, you know, a big financial decision, moving, quitting a stable job. I was in a relationship that wasn't feeling very good anymore. And I suddenly started having anxiety. Like I didn't even know what it was at the time. And I'd never felt like that. It just kind of like knocked me on my ass for a while. And so at that time, someone gave me a book about meditation, and it just like clicked. Like that was there was just like concepts I needed at the time to figure out what the heck I was going through. And so I started meditating, just kind of learning with the book. And then also it was right when Headspace came out. So that was a part of my early learnings about it, and then ended up focusing on that in grad school. So I was already like a couple months away from arriving at grad school, but I just completely changed what I was working on once I got there to focus on mental wellness and understanding like what anxiety is and how stress affects us, both mentally and physically, and if there was solid research behind this meditation thing, because I was still a little like skeptical. So yeah, and then, you know, started a meditation company. So I guess that started it all.
Nice. What are some things you do for self-growth?
For self-growth?
Yep.
Well, I would say that starting this company was a forceful function of self-growth. I mean, every day running a startup is like learning something new. And my main space of learning, I think, is like just talking to other people. So I either try to talk to other, you know, founders who are steps ahead of me, and also friends that are in completely other industries, because I find that if I'm, you know, if I'm trying to like be a better manager to my team, or, you know, I'm trying to figure out how to strategize some project, you know, I talk to people in my field, but I also find so much growth from talking to people who are solving those problems, but for an entirely different space.
Yep. It's awesome. No, that's, yeah. And do you find when you talk to folks, what are usually a sign that, are you going into the conversation with an intention to learn, you know, like a specific solution or whatever it is, or is it just a free flow and then sometimes you get certain information that you then apply?
I think usually more the latter, and I would be more efficient if I maybe went in with more directed approaches. I mean, I guess it's a mix. Like I felt it's important to me to maintain a lot of relationships that are outside of tech, so that a lot of those natural conversations just like flow from that. But you know, I definitely also like network really hard and just really pointedly like try to learn from someone who's done something specifically applicable, and then just get really directed with what I'm trying to learn from them.
Yeah. Is there something that you're looking forward to that excites you?
Yeah. We're doing, so my company Core, we're a meditation product, and we're starting some partnerships with different musicians and artists and producers. And we're kind of like, we're partnering with them to do original meditation music in our app. And we've started these, and they're already like just really cool content and really cool relationships to build. And we're starting to get into kind of like the next tier of artists. So I'm looking forward. I think in July and August, we'll have some really cool music partnerships coming out that I'm just really excited for.
Nice. If you were to write a book, what would it be about?
Well, I know the title first. So my grandpa used to say, bleed quietly. And bleed quietly. And he would say it in like a, you know, mostly serious, maybe like 1% joking, but like he pretty much meant it about, you know, if like kids are running around and they like, and we would, you know, fall and skin our knee or whatever. He didn't want like a bunch of little kids come in screaming about how their knees scraped and like bleed quietly, which sounds harsh, but the book would be about like, I think a lot of us have that ingrained in us, like toughen up, don't show weakness. And I don't think that's what real like deep strength comes from. I think that being vulnerable is really strong and powerful. And so the book would be somehow about like navigating this, I don't know, the kind of like juxtaposition of like how we all learn to bleed quietly, but how that's really disturbing us, and that actually like real strength and connection comes from not bleeding quietly.
How not to bleed quietly. That's going to be the title.
Bleed out loud.
That's going to be the title of this conversation. How not to bleed quietly. And then you could share it with the with your family.
Yeah.
All right. I'm just making a note.
Oh God.
So, I think you've talked about, founding a company. Is this, so if you want to go, you can, if you want to go into more detail about, what do you do in your professional life? And then is it any different than, what you dream about doing as a kid?
I'm pretty sure as a kid I dreamed about being a professional soccer player, so it's pretty different.
What happened to that dream?
I fell in love with basketball, really. Basketball took over, and then I don't think I was good enough. So
who was your favorite soccer player?
Michelle Akers. She was like the OG women's national team star.
And she still is your favorite soccer player?
Probably.
Yeah. That's interesting that you like Akers over Ham.
Yeah, I think when I was like dreaming of being a soccer player, Michelle Akers was like everything. And then Mia Hamm came next, but at that point I'd already kind of like moved on to basketball.
All right. Yeah, so go on your professional life, and so you wanted to be a soccer player, or you thought you were going to be a soccer player, and that you switched up to basketball. And then did you want to be a professional basketball player?
I mean, yeah, but I think I realized I probably wasn't. Like, I think in my heart, I am a much better athlete than I actually am. No, I don't know. I think I was focused on college, like definitely playing in college. But I don't think I really thought, I felt like, I guess my family expectation was definitely that you go to college and then get a job. And I don't think I thought of playing professionally overseas, which I think could have been possible, but I don't think I thought of that as like an okay path. Yeah. Then, now I'm like, everyone should try and do that.
Okay. Did you want to say anything else about your professional life?
Yeah, I mean, starting a company, I don't think I ever expected to do that. And in grad school, I was kind of exposed, I think, to more people who had started their own companies. Like entrepreneurship was just so highlighted in grad school. And I took a couple business school classes when I was there. I was in a master's in education program, but I took a couple business school classes, and at the time I'd had this like really this view of business school students as like, just kind of in another level, and I was kind of intimidated by them. And so being in classes with them, then I was kind of like, okay, like I could belong here. Like they're smart, but they're all right. So yeah, I think that put like the little kind of like bug in my ear of like maybe that's possible. Um, but still, I would not start a business for the sake of starting a business. Like I wanted to start the business because I felt like I had a mission and a purpose to try to get out there and an idea that I just had to try.
Yeah. Nice. Is there something on your bucket list to learn or do?
There are a lot of places I want to travel to. I got to travel a lot before grad school, and then once I started my company, like I have not traveled almost at all. So yeah, mostly traveling, and then I also really want to live in a tiny house for a while.
This is the time.
I know, right? I'm basically going to be forced into that dream.
Any particular tiny house configuration that you're interested in?
Man, I follow a lot of tiny house Instagram accounts for inspiration. There's something just about like how perfectly organized the space is, and like every part of the space serves a purpose.
Yeah.
And there's no extra space. Like I don't want to manage a bunch of extra space. I want everything to serve a purpose. But I would love to live like on a little bit of land in a tiny house.
Got it. So you want space outside,
Yeah.
but inside things should be well positioned.
Yeah, and it's easy to dream of that in California because you could spend so much time outside of your little, like you could have a sweet little outdoor setup and
Yeah.
eat your meals outside all the time, and
Yeah.
that'd be a dream.
Is there anything you want to unlearn?
To unlearn.
Yeah.
Wow, that is such a great question. Yeah, I think something that I've really struggled with being CEO is like just figuring out how to be like strict kind of and harsh sometimes, and like how to use certain emotions like anger productively as a woman. Like I feel like I have a lot of learned practices of just like smiling and taking care of someone else's feelings and emotions and ego, and you know, that like yelling at someone is just like not ladylike or whatever. And I'm not saying I want to be like the type of CEO who yells at people, but you know, there's a lot of like just setting strict expectations and holding people accountable that has to be in place for a good team to function. And I would love to unlearn some of the what I think are a little bit like gendered how it's okay to act or not as a leader.
Yeah. Have you started the work to unlearn and unwrap this, or not yet?
I've definitely started. I went to this leadership communication, or kind of like, yeah, communication weekend intensive workshop a couple years ago now. And it was like 4 days on site. Like you sleep at this place, and different people work on different things. It was kind of like for startup leaders to dive into whatever personal shit would make them a better leader. And so what I was working on there, like one of my goals was to figure out, like, understand anger, because I feel like when I am angry, you know, like anger is productive because it's a signal to you that something has like misaligned with your values or an expectation that was set out. So it's a good signal to pay attention to. But I feel like when I feel anger, I don't know how to express it in a productive way. And so I just like internalize it, and it turns into frustration. So I was working that weekend on like how to communicate anger, or like how to pay attention to what it actually means, and then how to communicate about that. So I've started the work, but it definitely takes, repetitive, like checking in on it and practice.
Yeah. You know, I would. You mentioned that I mean, essentially you've been an athlete for a while, right? I mean, as a kid, and so I would have thought that as an athlete you would have developed some habits or systems to channel that energy and find ways of expressing it. Um, so it's actually interesting that you said, um,
Yeah, well, I feel like when I'm on a basketball court,
it's different.
I can express anger, you know, yeah, it's like a completely different environment to
Uh,
me. And
huh.
yeah, I don't know. I have to unpack that one a little more. And
Yeah.
actually, when I was starting my company, I was like, I mean, being a CEO can't be that hard. Like basically, it's like a team. Like it's like a basketball team. Everyone has different roles, and I've like had a great understanding of like leadership in sports.
Uh-huh.
Definitely apply a lot of that, but it's not quite the same exactly. And you have a lot of people. um I think the other thing on a basketball court is like everyone's a basketball player. And in my company, um, other people are coming from all kinds of different environments and worlds. And
Yeah.
so not every analogy from sports that I feel like translates to them. So I have to like work out where they're coming from. And
Yeah. This is interesting. But we could spend a few hours talking about this piece. So this would be a part two or part three, because even the fact, you you mentioned something which I've worked with a few people about, which is this domain specific strength, or uh, so like you said, on the basketball court, I can, deal with anger or whatever it is. But outside, you haven't been able to channel that same, those energy. So your ability has been domain specific, to the court. But anyway, yeah, that's we'll definitely have a conversation about this, because there's a lot to tap in there.
there's so
So
much.
yeah, have you learned anything recently that changed your perspective on a subject, product, or idea?
Yeah. I feel like I'm learning so constantly. um, because I don't know what I'm doing. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, in a positive sense. I mean, truly, like running a company is just like it's a new challenge every day, and that's what's so exciting about it. Because I think everything about it is like taking a new problem that you've never seen before and getting really creative with how you solve it. Um, so let's see, something I've learned recently. My mind is blanking. There's a million things.
Yeah, this is fine. It's fine. We'll add that to a part two.
Yeah.
Can you think of any advice that you would give your younger self?
um, yeah, I think, you know, when I was, I think it would be about like learning really early on, um, about like how to reconnect to like your kind of authenticity. Because that's something that I found a ton of benefit with meditation. It's like that is now my tool to kind of come back to my values and who I know myself to be, um, and then to be able to like reconnect to that in a way that then I can like act from that place. Because I think in adult life, or at least I've experienced, that so many things just like push your path and push your behavior all the time. And, you're influenced by whatever environment is around you to kind of like push you to be a certain way. And I found over the last couple of years that I've gotten like pushed too far off what I feel like my kind of like authentic path is. And I've had to like, that starts to feel just like really bad, when you're not like, when you're just not like able to be, yourself, not to sound corny, but, and so I've had to, in those moments, like reconnect and be like, this isn't feeling right. What got off track? And learn how to reconnect with like what does feel right and who I know myself to be. But I feel like if I had learned some of those tools to like trust in that and reconnect with that when I was like 16, 17, 18, that would have helped prevent a lot of anxiety after that, at times when I felt like I was just like being swayed by the environment around me or whatever. So advice to my younger self would be to learn how to come back to that true self like every day.
Yeah. Good. What's the best advice you've received about money? And I know you mentioned that your dad is a financial advisor. So I'm interested to, so both. It could be the best advice you received about money from your dad, and then just general outside of your dad.
Yeah. I mean, I think too, probably like, one, well, from kind of like a investment perspective, like start to try to get even like tiny pieces of investments early and then think long term about them. So like letting something small just grow. And like my dad, I think advises a lot, like, the stock market can feel like this, or, people get panicked about the stock market, but if you like let certain moves just like sit there for a long time, you can get a lot of benefit out of them with patience. And then just really living simply, like not overextending kind of the lifestyle, to get in a position where you're either I'm either overextended on debt or, like, for example, I mean, I was in a super fortunate position to save a lot of money when I was working at Microsoft. But I had no idea what I was saving for. I just was just living simply. And eventually, once I got it in my head to go to grad school, that was now like a real option, for me, because I'd just been saving money just for some future opportunity that I didn't have any idea what that would be. So, you know, at this time of COVID, like a lot of people are unemployed. So it feels sort of like tough to say, like, save out of your paycheck. But as much as, as people are able to, that would be the most beneficial advice, to just like keep putting a little bit away, even if you don't know what it's for in the future. Because I think that's what enables you to take risks.
Yeah. Great advice. What has been the toughest thing you've had to tackle, and what helped you get through it?
I'll do a business one on that one. I think tough. Well, I'll just say this year, like we launched in January, and we launched with a physical meditation studio in San Francisco along with our online business. And, you know, we launched, had all these like big dreams. We hit some stumbling blocks. We solved those. We got over those, seeing success. COVID hit, totally changed the entire world, shifted strategy, you know. And I think this year has just been like every single week, the world changes a little bit. And so I think figuring out how to lead my team in this time, because it's like, it's not only I have to get myself ready for the work, I have to get them ready for the work. And it's kind of on me to make sure that they're energized and motivated and taken care of and supported and healing and, you know, taking care of their health and mental well-being and trauma. And like, there's just a lot. And so I think this has just been a year of like challenge to just step up as a leader every time and just keep figuring out what that looks like.
And what's helping you get through
it? Definitely talking to other people, and people outside of my business. Like, I think the one hard part about being a CEO is you don't have a direct peer. Like, my team's amazing and we do a lot of like very open sharing and, you know, I'm very transparent with them, but still, like, the relationship is just different, when, you know, because they work for me. And so in quarantine, I've definitely on certain days just been bogged down of like, oh, I don't know what to do. It's so hard. And like, you know, if I'm feeling tired, how am I going to get everyone else motivated and energized? And then I have, you know, I reach out to someone and have one phone call with a friend or a business mentor, and we just talk it out, and suddenly I'm like energized about it again. So it's definitely been an exercise in just like remembering to make the call and to reach out when I'm feeling like I don't know what to do or overwhelmed.
Yeah. What qualities do you admire in other people?
Openness and honesty. Like, I really have a problem with hypocrisy. And like curiosity and learning. Like, I really admire people who are constantly just open to new ideas and are looking for ways to learn.
Mm-hmm. What are red flags that you try to stay away from?
Hypocrisy. I think also just like not showing up. Like, you know, I think
flake on appointments, you mean?
Yeah, like flaking on, I don't know, just not being willing to like put in the effort to show up, be prepared for something, and like be present with someone in a conversation. And yeah, I think just like showing up has a lot of value. Like showing up like really presently with other people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So hypocrisy and not showing up, those are your two main red flags?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. For a fun question, if you won the lottery tomorrow, what will you do?
Ooh. Okay. I'd buy my tiny house. Yeah. I would take everyone, or I would offer to take everyone who I feel like has just like contributed to this amazing life I've gotten to live on some cool trip. I guess I would have to wait till after the pandemic, but that would be a goal. And then I would want to set up, I'm like really interested, this is totally taking this in a serious direction, but I'm really interested in the concept of like concepts like universal basic income, or like investments for, when a kid is born, like what if we can put $100 in an investment account or something for them? And like, I don't know, this would have to be an enormous lottery, but I would try to figure out a way to, like, I don't know, start an organization or something that would start to like try some things like that, which like some experts are trying and researching, and like figure out what difference that could make on a large scale or on a small scale. I don't know. I'm really interested in those concepts.
Yeah. The last one is a part of the second episode as well. Because I have a lot to say about that piece, but the two pieces you mentioned, where are you getting this tiny house? Have you determined where? And then,
great question.
The travel, is there a place in particular that everyone's going to?
Okay, so tiny house, I would look like extend 100 miles out from the Bay Area in all directions. And I would look for a piece of land with a lot of trees, so I get a lot of shade, and if possible, like a little creek running through it. That would be my ideal situation. And then I think to take everyone somewhere, I think I would maybe look at like the coast of Spain or France, somewhere on the coast, somewhere. I also really want to go to Morocco. That's been high on my list, but I don't know as much about it, so I'd have to learn first.
Those are all great places. Yeah, they're all great places.
You're invited. If I win the lottery, you're invited.
Nice. Is there anyone that you would like to thank or express your appreciation for that you haven't had the chance to yet?
I would express appreciation for my high school basketball coach, who was one of the main people who was at the gym that I keep mentioning. Yeah, I mean, I think he just like, he was such a steady presence in like a very unassuming way. But I don't think I've ever expressed to him how much of an impact he had on my life. Like, I've expressed appreciation, but I think the impact is higher than probably I've ever appreciated until now.
Yeah. Do you want to say his name?
His name's Lee Adams. I actually just texted him today and was like, can we catch up this weekend? So there's my opportunity to let him know.
Nice. And then when this is published, you can definitely share it with him. I'm sure he would appreciate the world knowing that you appreciate him. All right. For our final question, how do you define success?
I define success by how many people are successful next to you, to steal a Jay-Z line. I would say I define success by like truly, I think two ways. One, like truly feeling content in yourself, like no matter what's going on around you. I think feeling like a lot of that, you always have this like internal well of like joy and contentment about the life you're living. I think that's success to me. And I think related to that is like that I think it's a sign of kind of like living from that place, that you have, sort of like a strong community around you too, that you're close to. So that's what success for me would look like, I think.
Nice. Well, it's a perfect way to end. We connected, we politicked, and we will definitely do this again in the near future. And thanks a bunch.
For sure. Thank you. Thanks for having me. It is hot here in Oakland, so I got to step outside, get out for a walk.